You think women fantasize about compliments because of the words themselves, but they don't. They fantasize about the man behind the words, and most men say the right sentence with the wrong energy, then wonder why nothing lands. You think a compliment works because it sounds nice, but a compliment only has power when it reveals that you see clearly, speak honestly, and want nothing in return from the truth you just said. That is where most men fail. They don't compliment to express. They compliment to impress. They don't compliment from strength. They compliment from hope. They don't speak because they are grounded. They speak because they are nervous, and they are trying to buy connection with approval disguised as charm. A woman can feel that instantly. She may smile, she may say thank you, she may even play along. But deep down, she knows the difference between being genuinely seen and being managed by a man who wants a reaction. If you need truth like this, subscribe now, not because I need a number, but because you need reminders. You need your mind pulled back to reality. You need to hear the truth until it becomes your standard, because the world keeps teaching men to perform, to chase, to decorate weakness and call it confidence. You don't need more noise, you need more clarity. Here's what it really means. The compliments that stay in a woman's mind are not the compliments that flatter her ego the hardest. They are the compliments that make her feel seen in a way that is rare, clean, and grounded. And the reason most men say them wrong is simple. They turn compliments into a transaction. They say something kind, then emotionally lean forward and wait. Wait for the smile. Wait for the blush. Wait for the validation. Wait for proof that they matter. That's called approval seeking. That's called need wrapped in polished language. And no matter how smooth the words sound, need always leaks. The misconception is that women are most affected by exaggerated praise, that if you tell her she's the most beautiful woman in the room, the most incredible woman you've ever met, the sexiest thing you've ever seen, she'll melt. Sometimes she'll enjoy hearing it, but fantasy is not built by exaggeration. Fantasy is built by emotional contrast. A man who speaks with calm certainty hits deeper than a man who gushes. A man who sees something precise hits deeper than a man who sprays admiration everywhere. A man who can compliment without collapsing into the compliment hits deeper than a man who sounds like he's begging to be liked. Why does this happen? Because too many men were raised to believe that attraction is won by overgiving, more praise, more availability, more effort, more verbal fireworks, so they stack on words because they don't trust their presence. They over-explain because they don't trust their silence. They overpraise because they don't trust their eye contact. They overdo because they don't believe they are enough without performance. That's the real problem. Not lack of lines, lack of center. And it costs you more than you realize. It costs you tension. It costs you mystery. It costs you polarity. It costs you the ability to make a woman feel relaxed around you because now she can feel that your compliment is carrying emotional weight she didn't ask to hold. Instead of receiving a moment of truth, she receives pressure. Instead of feeling seen, she feels handled. Instead of leaning in, she leans back internally. That is what men miss. They hear the polite response and assume the compliment worked. But politeness is not impact. Attention is not desire. A smile is not surrender. So reframe the whole thing. A compliment is not a trick to unlock attraction. It is a clean expression of perception from a man who is already anchored. That is the frame. You are not speaking to get chosen. You are speaking because you notice something true and you are not afraid to say it plainly. No performance, no chasing, no hidden invoice, just truth. And when truth comes from a man with self-respect, it lands differently. Now listen carefully because there are three compliments that make women fantasize when they are delivered right, and most men ruin all three for the same reason. They say them like applicants instead of men. The first one is not, "You're beautiful." Men have burned that sentence into the ground. They throw it around with no weight, no specificity, no backbone. And the more they say it, the less it means. The compliment that actually hits is this: you have a very dangerous presence, or you have a presence that pulls people in. Do you understand the difference? One worships her appearance like every other man. The other notices impact. One is generic. The other is observant. One says, "I want you to know I approve of how you look." The other says, "I can feel the effect you have and I'm not afraid to name it." Why does that matter? Because beauty is common praise. Presence is rare recognition. Beauty can be seen by anyone with eyes. Presence can only be named by someone who pays attention. And women do not fantasize most about the man who blurts out the obvious. They fantasize about the man who sees beneath the obvious without sounding needy while he says it. But most men say it wrong. They say it with too much hunger, too much grin, too much leaning, too much, please tell me that was good. So instead of sounding grounded, they sound intoxicated. Instead of sounding calm, they sound conquered. That kills the whole effect. If you say something like that, it has to come from stillness, low drama, real eye contact, no follow up scramble. You say it, you let it breathe, you move on. That's called emotional containment. That's what gives a compliment weight. The second compliment is stronger, and almost no man uses it correctly. It is not about her body, not about her face, not about how sexy she is. It is about her standard. Something like, you seem like a woman who doesn't give her attention cheaply. Or, I can tell you're selective. Or even, you carry yourself like you respect yourself. Now pay attention here, because weak men hear that and immediately try to fake depth. Don't. The point is not to sound poetic. The point is to show that you recognize discipline, boundaries, and self-respect in her. Why does that create fantasy? Because it makes her feel seen beyond surface attraction, while also implying that you are the kind of man who values substance, not just access. That compliment hits because it separates you from the men who only respond to appearance. It tells her, without groveling, that you notice how she moves through the world, her restraint, her selectiveness, her energy, her standard. And that is powerful because a woman with self-respect wants to feel desired, yes, but she also wants to feel recognized for the part of her that not every man can reach. But again, most men ruin it. They deliver it like salesmen trying to sound profound. They over-explain. They pile on. They turn one strong observation into a paragraph of thirsty analysis. Stop doing that. You stop rambling. You stop decorating. You stop trying to force the moment bigger than it is. One sentence. Calm delivery, then back to center. The power is in the restraint. The power is in your ability to say something sharp without emotionally chasing the effect. The third compliment is the deepest one, because it touches identity. And identity is where fantasy lives. It sounds like this: you feel peaceful to be around. Or, there's something very grounded about you. Or, you have a calming energy, but it doesn't feel weak. That kind of compliment reaches a part of a woman that rarely gets named with honesty. Most men compliment what excites them. Few compliment what regulates them. Most men are loud about chemistry. Few are mature enough to notice emotional atmosphere. But when a man notices the quality of a woman's energy, and he says it without sounding soft, clingy, or overly impressed, it lands deep. Why? Because now you are not just reacting to her. You are revealing that you can feel, that you are perceptive, that you are not blind, but you are still grounded in that perception. That combination matters: sensitivity without weakness, clarity without performance, appreciation without dependence. That is rare. And understand this: these compliments do not work because they are magic lines. They work because of the kind of man who can say them properly. That is the whole point. The words are not the weapon. The man is. Picture that man. He is not in a rush to impress. He is not scanning for the perfect thing to say. He is not trying to stack attraction like a desperate gambler chasing one more win. He has a life. He has direction. He has standards. He does not speak to fill silence because silence does not threaten him. He does not flatter to create value because he already has value. He notices, he decides, he speaks. Then he remains where he is, calm, unmoved, present. He can compliment a woman and not become smaller in the process. He can admire without kneeling. He can express desire without surrendering his frame. That is the man women remember. He doesn't praise every woman. He doesn't hand out validation like flyers on a street corner. He is selective, which is exactly why his words matter. He is generous but not loose, warm but not overeager, interested but not captured. He is not hiding his masculinity behind fake indifference, and he is not humiliating his masculinity through need. He stands in the middle. That middle is power. So what do? First, stop complimenting from anxiety. If you feel a rush inside you that says, Say something now before the moment disappears. Slow down. That rush is weakness trying to sound bold. Let it settle. Second, stop complimenting what every man already compliments unless you can make it precise. If you're going to mention beauty, anchor it. Not, you're so gorgeous. Too empty, too common, too cheap. Instead, notice something real about her effect, her composure, her expression, her energy. Third, stop leaning on the compliment after you say it. No nervous laugh, no over explaining, no immediately fishing for a response. Say it cleanly and let the silence do its job. Then redirect. Focus less on saying more and more on becoming the kind of man whose words naturally carry gravity. Work on your pace, work on your eye contact, work on your posture, work on your emotional sobriety, work on your standards. Because a weak man can memorize strong lines and still sound weak. But a strong man can say a simple sentence and make it stay in her mind all night. And that is the part most men don't want to hear. They want the script without the substance. They want the line without the identity. They want the outcome without the development. But attraction does not respect shortcuts for long. Reality always exposes you. If your compliment is stronger than your character, it will collapse. If your words promise a grounded man but your energy reveals a needy one, the illusion dies fast. So build congruence. Let your words match your nervous system. Let your praise match your standards. Let your attention come from choice, not starvation. Because when a woman feels that you are genuinely seeing her but not losing yourself in the process, something shifts. Now, the compliment does not feel like pressure. It feels like signal. It feels like contact. It feels like being recognized by someone she can actually respect. And respect is what fantasy feeds on. Not flattery, respect. The fantasy is not just that you desire her. Plenty of men do. The fantasy is that you desire her from a place of strength, that you can see her clearly without falling apart, that you can appreciate her without worshiping her, that you can name what is true without trying to possess what you just named. That is clean masculine energy. And clean masculine energy stays in the mind. So the next time you compliment a woman, remember this. Do not compliment her to get a reaction. Do not compliment her to prove you're confident. Do not compliment her to separate yourself from other men through sheer volume of charm. Compliment her because you noticed something true. Say it with precision. Say it with restraint. Say it from a body that is relaxed and a mind that is not begging for anything. Tell her she has a presence that pulls people in if that is true. Tell her she carries herself like a woman with standards if that is true. Tell her there is something grounded or calming about her energy if that is true. But if it is not true, say nothing. Silence is stronger than false praise. Reality is stronger than performance. Presence is stronger than chatter. You stop over-talking. You stop overreaching. You stop turning compliments into applications for approval. You stop mistaking verbal intensity for masculine depth. You stop trying to sound impressive and start aiming to be real. That is the shift. That is where your power comes back. Because this is not really about compliments. It is about self-respect. It is about whether you can express admiration without becoming submissive to the response. It is about whether you can speak desire without handing over your emotional balance. It is about whether you are a man with a center or a man borrowing one from women. Be the man with a center. Be the man whose words are rare enough to matter. Be the man whose attention feels earned, not sprayed everywhere. Be the man who sees more deeply because he lives more deeply. Be the man who does not need to manipulate because he knows that truth, spoken well, is enough. You are not here to become smoother. You are here to become cleaner. You are not here to learn how to flatter better. You are here to learn how to perceive better. You are not here to chase fantasies by performing. You are here to become the kind of man women fantasize about because your presence feels solid, honest, and hard to replace. You are the answer, not the line, not the tactic, not the compliment itself. You, your frame, your restraint, your eye for truth, your willingness to speak without begging, your self-respect. That is what makes the words live. If you want more truth like this, subscribe, because the world is full of cheap advice for men who want shortcuts, and very little guidance for men who want substance. Stay around voices that sharpen you, not voices that sedate you. And if you are building that kind of presence, that kind of discipline, that kind of self respect, then understand this clearly. You are not alone. You are with men who are done performing for attention and ready to become unforgettable for real reasons.